Hey guys, what's up? My name's Kayla from Planning with Kay, and welcome back to another video. I'm back here today with another 5 types video where I show you guys how to set up 5 different spreads in your bullet journal that all fall under the same category, I guess. So I've done a 5 types of monthly spreads, weekly spreads, habit trackers, quarantine spreads, and I'm back today to show you guys 5 types of collection spreads that you can set up in your bullet journal. Now I'm going to be setting these spreads up in my long-term bullet journal right here. This has all of my yearly spreads, my long-term trackers, long-term collections, stuff like that. And these spreads are actually the very first 5 collections that I ever set up in this journal. I set these up a couple months ago now, so I've actually had the chance to use these spreads for a little bit, and I'm absolutely loving how they turned out and how they're working for me. And I'm really excited to show you guys today how I'm setting these spreads up. If you want to see some more 5 types videos on my channel, be sure to leave some recommendations down in the comments below of what types of spreads you guys want to see. I really want to do one of these for mood trackers and also finance spreads. Those are the next ones on my list. But if you do have any other suggestions, be sure to leave those down in the comments below. All right, so with that being said, let's dive right into my long-term journal and start setting up 5 types of collection spreads. All right, so the first collection that I'm going to be setting up today is a reading log. First things first, though, you might be wondering what exactly I mean when I say a collection. And in my bullet journal, when I talk about a collection spread, I basically just mean like a random list of stuff. The category can vary, obviously, but in general, yeah, a collection is just like a list of things. It's not necessarily productivity related. It's really just more of like a fun way to keep track of different things in your journal. I'm being very vague because it really is a pretty overarching type of spread. A collection can be a ton of different things, but today I'm just going to be showing you 5 different collections that I'm starting off with in my long-term bullet journal. So, like I said, I'm starting off with my reading log. I'm using a few different supplies throughout all of these spreads. I decided to use 2 different watercolors to do all of these spreads today, keeping it to a simple color scheme that I really, really love. And that is a purple along with like a bluish green color. These are 2 watercolors from my Kuretake Gansai Tombow watercolor set. If you're curious about the exact colors, the purple is number 139 and the emerald blue green color is number 62. I'm also going to be using this Tombow Fudenosuke hard tip brush pen for my lettering. And finally, I'm going to be using a Tombow mono drawing pen for just simple black lines and a white gel pen to make my lettering pop on some of these spreads. As usual, I'm going to have all of the supplies I'm using linked down in the description below. I'm also using a few sticker sheets throughout this setup, really not doing anything super sticker heavy, and some of these spreads even don't really have any stickers, but for some of the spreads, I just have some stickers in my shop that work too perfectly to pass up. For example, on this reading log spread, I used 2 different sticker sheets, one that is just stacks and rows of books, and another sticker sheet called Plants, Books, and Coffee. Both of those originally came out with my Plants and Pages themed sticker collection, and they just work so perfectly for a reading spread. So I just created a header along the top that says reading log, and then I have 4 different columns underneath that for some different categories for this reading log. Firstly, on the left, I have a column for suggestions. I am pretty often getting book suggestions now from my Instagram followers, YouTube subscribers, and especially my patrons over on patreon.com/planningwithkay. There are a lot of readers in the bullet journal world, I've noticed. The Bujo community and like the Bookstagram, Booktube community has a lot of intersections. So I wanted to make sure I had plenty of room to write down suggestions. Then there's a column for what I'm going to read next, a column for completed books, and finally a column to record my favorite books that I've read. I decided to also show you guys how I'm filling this out with the books I've read so far this year, just kind of to catch up since I set this spread up a little bit into the year. So I'm writing some stuff under completed, and I was setting this spread up during a Patreon live stream, so I also wrote down some suggestions that my patrons were giving me while setting it up, and that's it for this first collection reading log spread.
Stuck inside at noon, out where the stars forget to shine.
Moving right along, I'm going to be setting up the second collection spread of this video, which is going to be a spread for keeping track of the shows and movies that I'm watching. My husband and I are both huge TV fans. We are watching TV all the time, whether it's just running in the background as some nice, friendly background noise, or if we're sitting down at the end of the day to watch a new movie together. We both just love the activity of watching new shows and movies. So with all of the new stuff that we're always watching, I've been wanting to create a spread like this for a while to keep track of all of those shows and movies, and I'm really excited to finally have gotten the chance to create this spread. So I'm starting off just by creating a really fun header at the top of the page. Since most of these spreads are really simple in their functionality, like all of these spreads are pretty much just lists. Like I said, a collection is basically just a list. So there's not really a lot to the spread itself, but where I brought it together and really made it my own was in the watercoloring, in the header illustrations. You'll see that I'm kind of going between using stickers and doing my own little doodles, like the little movie clapper on the top left here. I really love the watercolor colors together too. I love how they blended for this header here, and yeah, just really happy with the aesthetics of all of these spreads, and I had a lot of fun setting these up. So I'm creating 4 columns for this collection here. Unlike the reading log, I'm not giving my columns any particular categories or anything. Instead, I'm just creating a key that's going to go along with this spread. So I'm just going to have a huge running list of shows and movies, and then I'll have these different signifiers to denote whether it's a movie, a show, and then I'll also put a star next to anything that makes it onto my favorites list.
Push me out to sea, baby. It's the best thing for us both. I'll be happy out there, baby. Fish below and stars above. And you'll...
So like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, I have been already using these spreads for a couple months now, since I am editing this video a little bit after the fact. I set this up, again, maybe like a month or 2 ago. And so far, I am loving this spread. I feel like it's actively encouraging me to find new movies. I've been doing some like movie binges on the weekends when I have a little bit of spare time. And it's just been really fun for me to like be a little bit more mindful of which movies I'm watching are favorites of mine, seeing a trend in the types of movies that end up becoming favorites. And yeah, I'm just really loving this collection. I'm using these cool toned circle list stickers as well on this spread to create my lists in those columns. It matches those watercolor paints so perfectly, so I couldn't help but use those circle list stickers. And that's pretty much it for this spread. I created a little quote at the bottom that says, "The cinema has no boundary, it is a ribbon of dream." And then I'm just writing in some of the movies and shows that I've watched so far. All right, collection spread number 3, we are doing one for music and records. So originally I was just gonna have this be a music spread to keep track of new artists and albums and songs that I'm discovering, and also again to like encourage me to find new music. But recently I've actually decided to start trying to expand my record collection. I've had a record collection since, sophomore year of college, I want to say. I started collecting records in college. A bunch of them I bought myself. Some of them I inherited from my dad because he has a big record collection, and maybe inherited isn't the right word. It's more like I just stole them. I just like took a box of records and then told him eventually. I'm like, these are mine now. He's like, all right, keep them safe. But it's been a couple years since I've been actively trying to expand that collection. So I decided that I want to make it more of a priority to stock up on some of my favorite albums, really fill out my record collection because it's missing a lot of key like artists and albums for me personally. So I decided to make this spread a music and record spread. So I have one column that is for writing down new music discoveries. I then have a record wish list where I can write down the records I really want to add to my collection. And finally, a column for writing down records that I actually end up purchasing. If you want to create a similar spread like this for music, but you don't have any interest in collecting records, then you can create this exact same type of spread, but just title your columns a bit differently. For example, you could have new discoveries, old favorites, and another column for like your top music finds of the year. You could have your columns separated by song, artist, and album. You could have them separated by genre. Go crazy with it. With all these spreads, you can definitely adjust them and customize them to work for you. These are my personal bullet journal spreads, so obviously these are specifically catered to me and for what works for me, but when you're watching videos like this with different bullet journal spread ideas, never limit yourself to thinking that you have to like copy the spread exactly. You know, make it work for you. That's the whole thing about bullet journaling, is that you can make it work for you. You can change whatever you want. And yeah, I'm really excited to see kind of what different spreads you guys come up with in your journal inspired by this video. And I'm just really enjoying all of these collection spreads so far. So again, the bones of this spread are really simple. We just have our 3 lists, but I am jazzing it up with this really fun illustration on the right. I had a really good time with the watercolors and my black pens creating these different doodles throughout this video. And I think this one has to be my favorite. I have a record player at the bottom, and then I have some floating records above that, putting in some sparkles and some splashes of watercolor that I'm kind of carrying out through this entire setup today. I wanted all of these spreads to feel cohesive and to like go together as a little clump in my long-term journal. So that's why I'm kind of carrying the same colors, the same splattery watercolor paint techniques, and I really love how this spread turned out.
You know what fades in store. Embrace yourself for change, 'cause who you are was never set in stone.
After writing in a little quote at the bottom that says, "I am the song, you are the tune," that is it for this music and record spread, and time to move on to the next collection. All right, so the 4th collection spread that I'm setting up as a part of this video is going to be one for keeping track of different bullet journal related ideas, specifically different spread ideas that I have, and then a page next to that for keeping track of different quotes that I might want to use in future bullet journal setups. Especially since starting this long-term journal at the start of this year, I feel like I've been extra inspired by my journal, and I've been having all of these different ideas of spreads that I want to set up. So that's why I wanted to make sure to have a whole page in this journal just dedicated to those different spread ideas. So this spread is very simple. It's even simpler than I think all the other spreads in this setup. I just have my 2 headers at the top. On the left, I have my spread ideas header, and then on the right, I'm gonna have my quotes header, and then I'm basically just leaving the whole page blank. So that way I can use these pages how I wish. I'm not limited by a certain like column layout. I can brainstorm different spread ideas, write in different quotes, and not be limited by space. So I'm also creating this cool watercolor kind of like drippy, but like upward drips I don't know how to describe it, floating watercolor along the bottom. And I'm using some more stickers from that Plants, Books, and Coffee sticker sheet. And I'll be sure to link all of the sticker sheets that I'm using in the description down below. There's only a few. This is a pretty light sticker setup, but of course everything will be linked down below. So the fifth and final collection spread that I'm setting up today is going to be a seasonal bucket list. This is one of my favorite spreads that I set up, and basically what this is going to be is 4 different bucket lists kind of separated out by season. This might not be super applicable depending on where you live, but here in Portland, Oregon, we definitely get seasons. There's different things that you can only do certain times of year, different sort of seasonal activities. And I found myself year after year kind of putting some of these really fun things off, being like, oh, we'll get to it next spring, or we'll do that next winter. And I found it really easy to just kind of do that year after year and never end up doing some of these classic seasonal activities that happen here in the Pacific Northwest. So I really was looking forward to creating a spread like this, essentially just to keep me accountable in actually doing these things, especially because I don't know that we're going to be living in Oregon permanently. We kind of just play it by ear, year by year, as far as where we're going to live. So I know that there's a lot of things that I still want to do before our time in Oregon is up. So I created 4 different columns here for my seasonal bucket list. I'm also using a couple different sticker sheets on this spread. I used my fluffy clouds sheet up at the top for some beautiful clouds running across the header. And I'm also using my sheet of simple weather icons throughout this spread. So like I said, I'm going to have 4 different columns for my 4 seasons: spring, summer, fall, and winter. And I'm just going to write down lists of different things that I want to do for each season using these checkbox list stickers for the lists themselves. And I have to say, this spread has already been a massive success. Writing things down on these lists actually encourages me to schedule time out to do these things. I've been meaning to go to the Wooden Shoe Tulip Festival ever since we moved to Portland, and even last year, or was it the year before, whatever the year was where I designed the tulip sticker collection, I especially meant to go to the Tulip Festival. Never ended up happening. As soon as I wrote down Tulip Festival under the spring column of this spread, I booked the tickets and we ended up going, and it was incredible. I went with Jake and we just had a really romantic day at the Tulip Festival, and the spread has already made me check off a couple other seasonal bucket list items. So super happy with that spread, and that is it for all 5 of the collections I'm setting up today. After just a couple months of using these spreads, these have already brought so much value to my life. Again, these spreads not only help to make my journal like a time capsule, showing what I'm watching, listening to, reading, and doing during this time of my life, but these spreads are also encouraging me to seek out new fun things, new books, new movies, new things to do around my city. I really just couldn't be happier with how all of these collections turned out, and I feel like they add a fun, different component to my journaling that it didn't really have before. So I hope you guys liked watching me set up all of these spreads today, and I hope that you try out something similar in your journal. And with that, that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for joining me as I set up 5 types of collection spreads in my journal. Like I mentioned, I've already been using these spreads for a little bit and they're all working really, really well for me. So super happy about that. And I hope that you guys really enjoy these spreads if you decide to do something similar in your own journal. Don't forget to also leave any other 5 types videos you'd like to see on my channel down in the comments below. So with that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your your day. If you want to see more videos here on my channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below and click the bell to be notified the next time I post a video. All of the links to my sticker shop, the supplies that I used today, social medias, Patreon, everything like that is down in the description below. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.
How far you'd fall were you to call.